Hi YouTube, Tsuka here today with some more Warp Forge for you. So, as you guys know, our new expansion, Avenging Sons, has just dropped, and we're here today to discuss that. So the new expansion comes with two mechanics, Oath and Sentry. So Oath lets you pay an extra X to get to uh, to give a special effect to your unit. Sometimes this effect can be more stats, or it can be other varied things. Sentry is a defensive keyword, which means that if you're attacked, your sentry deals X damage first, whatever your sentry value is, before the attack resolves. If you kill somebody with this, then the attack doesn't resolve at all. So I actually find these two keywords not that powerful. Uh, Oath, while it does let your troop do something else, it also it also means you have to pay for it. So as long as you're paying for it, that's fine. And actually, it could lead to a severe underdropping of your troop. Because, for example, if you're an Oath 4, or rather, if you're a Cost 4 Oath 2, then you'll be coming out at the 6 drop mark when when you get played. So if you get played at 6, that means that you do get your effect, but you still have the body of a 4 drop, whereas your opponent brings out the body of a 6 drop. So you could be outmatched when you start trading. So for Oath to work, the effect better be worth it. Now Sentry is a bit trickier to discuss. Now keep in mind that Sentry does look good at first, but keep in mind that Sentry is defensive. So your opponent chooses how Sentry is triggered. For example, should if you have a Sentry 10 unit that will just kill everyone that attacks it, would the opponent even bother attacking it, or would they attack other targets? So, and Sentry's ability, which says that if a unit is destroyed which is the damage, the attack doesn't take place, will never actually see play, because if your Sentry value is that high, that your opponent's troop will just be killed, then there's no reason for your opponent to even attack that unit in the first place. They would probably spend his troop doing something else, or at worst, just do nothing and let you attack into him. Now, Sentry, for all intents and purposes, well, I think once you actually see it in gameplay, I think it will just be a plus to the weakest attack. All right, let me just bring up a card to as an example. So let's say this: Fire Strike Servo, Sentry 2, and then 1/4. I'm the opponent. Would I ever attack this in ranged? No, because he has 4, right? So the only way I would ever attack this is in melee. That means that the Sentry value gives 1 plus 2 to his melee, which makes it 3, which is quite respectable. You would never see a 4 plus 6 on this, because the opponent is not going to give you that, because he's trying to take this out with the lowest possible damage to himself as well. Alright, so that being said, I do find that the keywords are balanced, nothing overpowered like in Space Wolves. No ferocity or even pack, nothing even on that level. So it's perfectly good so far. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna discuss the cards, and then we're gonna put them in a tier list so you can see how I think they'll be used in the game. So first off, let's discuss the other warlord first. Valius Praxor has flying during your turn, so always good. Talent is +1 to friendly unit, and Oath to give armor 2. I always like to see a 1-cost warlord, a 1-cost talent that can get a warlord to 3. The 3 attack, whether it's in range or in melee, is a big breaking point where you can deal with things like drones or guardsmen, or even battle sisters or anything like that you can take out in one hit. It's a it's actually a huge difference when you need to take 2 actions to get rid of that rather than just one. Now, so that alone is good for me. Now, it's also good that he has a cost of 1 because Space Marines need help triggering their codex. So 1 and 3 gives him a variable cost that lets you fit it in what with whatever cost you need. Of course, Tigerius is still better because his is 1, 2, 3, and 4. But 1, 2, and 3 rather. But this is good enough for a warcaster. So it's and he has an ability as well to give +2 armor, so it could make your troops survive. So it's just a basic ability. That's good. That's all you really need from a warcaster. So I'm actually gonna rate him quite highly at A. All right, now the big guy, Gilliman. All right, Codex Seal 1. He's the only caster with a Codex ability so far. And I think that's the reason why they changed the other card to only target troops. Because if Gilliman were able to trigger his own Codex, he would be healing an additional 1 every turn. So with Codex Heal 1, Gilliman likes to take a long time, so he's a control caster. The thing is, there's not that many rounds in skirmish, so he won't be able to heal a lot. And they already removed the multiple energy trick with the lieutenant, so he's gonna have a hard time triggering his codex. Now, so he's more of a classic caster than a skirmish one. Now, his ability is pay 2, trigger the codex ability of a friendly unit. So at worst, you can trigger yourself for a heal 1. But I have to ask you, would you pay 2 cost? Would you pay 2 energy just to heal 1? So, one of the requirements of this codex, of this talent, is that you need something worthy enough to target it to justify your 2 cost. So, for example, the flankers from Space Marines, the the three cost flanker that gives +1 to range for the turn. Would that actually be worth paying to energy for to give an additional +1 range? Not really, right? So you'd have to have something like Redemptor Dreadnought, which deals 1 to 2 damage to the entire board, or maybe even something like that unit that stuns somebody at random. So you need to have something like that on the board to be able to really use this talent. So until then, you really don't have a talent, and you'd rather spend it playing troops. Now, +1 is always good. It lets you generate favorable trades. But again, you'd have to pay 3 for this, 2 plus 1. So the talent better be very good. The codex that you triggered better be very good. And otherwise, I wouldn't recommend using this. It's not worth it on its own. Next, we have Master of Battle, or it gives Sentry 2 to a friendly unit. So, ideally, you would give this to a unit they can't avoid hitting, which would be your Warlord, which can protect you for a turn. However, it costs 4 to do that, and while they're not hitting your Warlord, they're hitting your other troops, so you're gonna have no board left. So I don't find this worth it because all it does is buy you a turn, and it's not even a guarantee, because if the opponent is willing to take damage, then they can still attack you. Unlike something like Humanity Shield or something, which guarantees to give you invulnerability. Next, Supreme Strategist. I actually think this would be worth it. That does cost a lot, 2 plus 3, so 5. It does function something like for the greater good in Tau, where the first target for this would be your Warlord. First off, that shuts off all flanks. You can't flank a Warlord even if he's Vanguard. Second, it protects all of your other troops from being attacked. So you get 1 turn to build up, hiding behind your Warlord. And then hopefully armor 1 will be enough to keep you alive. And then the next turn you can use your troops to kill theirs. So I think this will not be used every turn. But I think there's gonna be one turn every game where this would be invaluable. So he's a very flexible warlord. However, he does require a lot from his troops. Like there needs to be a troop there for the codex to trigger, and he generally costs a lot for what he does. So I'm not seeing him beat out Tigerius in anything. So I'm just gonna place him in B. Next we have our humble scout or the incursor. Rally, deal 1, oath, stun an enemy. Now, the regular scout already sees play. Just deal 1 damage. This gives you an extra ability that you can pay 3 for to stun an enemy. Would it be worth 3 to stun an enemy? Actually, I would think yes. And the way that oath is worded, you could actually deal 1 damage somewhere and then stun another target. So you could actually hit 2 targets with this. I think this will see a lot of play, and I'm gonna be putting it in the B rank, or maybe in A rank. I'd see it a lot of play, and it goes into a lot of decks. Then we have the Phobos Lieutenant, long range, Oath 1, gain stealth. Um, it has the same stats as a gun drone, or rather a sniper drone. And I would never play this on a 2. I would always put stealth on it. The reason why is that if you play this down on a 2 with no protection, because there's no protection, he doesn't have anything. Your opponent will do everything he can to kill it, and at worst, he'll get rid of your long range by hitting you with his melee attack. So it's really not worth it at 2, but at 3 it could be very good. I think that at 3, it will see play in all Space Marine decks. Well, all classic Space Marine decks. It might not make enough of an impact in skirmish. So it will see play in all classic Space Marine decks, which is all you can ask for, and it even gives you random resources for future development. So since I think it will see play in all decks, I would actually oh, don't I have it here? 1 minute, let me just import it. Okay. I would actually put it in S tier. Next, we have our Tactical Marine. So you can either have the small version, 223, or the big version, 54336. There's actually nothing wrong with this. It's good to be flexible. You can either have it as an early drop or a mid drop. So that's good enough. It just there's a lot of more cards out there that do better things. So while this does something perfectly acceptable, I don't think it will be enough to warrant inclusion in a lot of decks. In a draft though, I would select this anytime. So I would put it in B. Next we have our turret. So long range, Sentry 2, Oath gain 3, Sentry 2. I do not see this being played as 5 for Sentry 4. The reason is, at 5 drop, you can't play down something that's just 3 health. I'm not paying 5 energy for something that's 3 health. Now, one good thing about this is that I think this is how Sentry should be included. It has to be included in something that you need to get rid of. For example, this has this has long range. This means that if you don't attack it, if you don't trigger Sentry, it will have a powerful attack next turn. So you're very encouraged to attack this, even though you have to take the Sentry damage. Now again, they'll just attack this in melee, so at most he'll have 3 melee to fight back, and he'll have only 3 health. So he'll probably get killed in one turn. I don't really foresee this being able to attack. However, if you're running Antonio Cronius and a vehicle deck, I might see a place for him there. especially since you can give him flank. Now, given how fragile it is, I would just put it at B tier because there's a space for it somewhere. Next, we have a scout sniper. It's actually not different from the eliminator if you think about it. 3, 2, 4, 3. The difference here is that if you pay an extra one, you get an oath 1 damage. But it's not that big, really. I'm not gonna pay an extra one just for 1 damage. Um, the thing about this is eliminators don't really see play now. And scout snipers I doubt will see play either. So, for that, I'm giving it a D tier. Next, we have our legendary, Vico Tiberius. So, stealth, which is automatically good. Oath 1 gain camouflage. I don't really see him getting, him paying for the oath. The reason is you're already stealth. There's no need to be camouflage on top of that. Now, the ability is oath abilities of friendly troops may be advanced on later turns. So, you can pay for oath again in a later turn. So, for example, if you played the tactical marine on 2, then Tiberius on 3, you can then go back to the tactical marine on 4 to give him another shot of oath. That does make it flexible, but the thing is, you're still paying for the oath ability, and none of the oath abilities are really that broken. So, as long as you're paying for it, I think you're good balance wise. Now, 3, 4, 3, 4, 4. I guess that's okay for 3 drop. I mean, if you think about it, a crisis suit has the same stats, but with shield, and but for 4 cost. And the pre boost, the stealth suit also had the same stats, 3, 3, 4, 4, and that still saw a lot of play. So I think just for his regular stats, Vico will see play. So I'm putting him in a B tier. A lot of uh, a lot of people may rate him higher, maybe even S tier, because of his ability. The reason I'm not doing that is because you still have to pay for the ability. As long as you have to pay for it, I don't see it being abusive. Next, we have our bike. So, 3, 5, gain 1 on flank. So you either get a plain bike at 3, 5 for 4, or you get a flanker at 6 for 3, 6. So, do you need a 6 attack flanker for Space Marines at 6? The thing is, you already have an Interceptor Sergeant that has 4, 5 and has more health at 6. Before that, like you have a bike at 4 attack for 3, you have an Interceptor for 4 attack at 3, and however, his base form, 4, 4, 3, 5, 5, is still not that great. So I don't really see a place for it in Space Marines. And if you think about it, if you compare this to the Raven Wing bikes, they have 5 to cast and 3, 5 with an ability, and this is 3, 6 with nothing. It's really outclassed by whatever's out there. So we put it. I'm not gonna put it in D tier. I think there might be a place for it in some decks, but that's all I can give it. Next, we have our Chapter Champion. I think this may be the strongest card in the set. So 4, 3, 2, 5, 1, 5 in armor 1. However, if you look at the ability Codex gain 2, this will never actually just be a 4. At most, at least it will be a 5. So, because when you play it, you'll probably trigger Codex. So it will be a 4, 5, 2, and then respectable health, 5 and 1. And if it somehow survives till your next turn, which it probably will, because it still has a respectable health for a 4 drop, it will then get 7 attack. Now most 4 drops have 5 health, There are some, like the Iron Priest, that have 6. But none of them, as I remember, have 5 plus 1 armor. So he might be the sturdiest 4 drop in the game. I don't see the Oath being played at all. Number one, you don't want this to be your bind guard. You don't want this guy attacked. You want him to be given time to develop. And an extra plus 1 armor is not worth 2 additional energy. However, that being said, just his base form is already enough to give him an S tier. I see him in every Space Marine deck. No exceptions. Whether it's skirmish or whether it's classic. Suppressor, Sentry 1 flying. Choose a stratagem you play this turn and return it to your hand. So there's no reason to play this at 4 for 2/4. The only reason you would ever play this is at 5 and then choose a stratagem you played into your hand to this game and return it to your hand. So this will be used primarily by a lot of players to return something like Humanity Shield or something like that to give you more turns of invulnerable. I actually think that's not the best use for it. I think if you were to go on a wide board Space Marine deck and then have something like Tactical Insight used, I think that would be enough to justify something like this, because you'd be triggering your codex over and over again. So I do see a place for it, but not in every deck. Personally, I might give it a skip. So, due to that, we rate it as A. Next, we have our Devastator Marine. 5 Blast 2, Oath 4, deal 5 damage. Would you ever play this at 9? Would you be happy spending 9 energy for this? You get a 4/6/6 body for a 9 drop and deal 5 damage somewhere. Uh, I think very few people would be happy to play this at 9. However, its basic card is 5/4/6/6 Blast 2. It's an upgrade from our 5/5/5/6 Blast 2 unit that's already in Space Marines. However, that doesn't see much play. I don't think this will see much play either as well. So, I'm going to put it at C tier. Next, we have our Full Boss Librarian, Camouflage, Oath 3. Deal 2 to 4 damage to an enemy if it dies against shield. So would you be happy paying 8 for this for it to gain shield? Assuming that you have a perfect target to hit. I don't see this being played at 8. There's just so many other things you can get that can get played at 8. However, at 5, with Camouflage and 6/4/6, that alone could be enough to justify it being played. So at 5, I definitely think there's a space for this in the deck. So due to that, I think I'll put it in B tier. Next, we have our Terminator. Oath 1, gain 1 armor. Pretty simple. So the Wolfguard Terminator is 6 cost, 6/6, 6 health, and 1 armor. So it's exactly like a Wolfguard Terminator. And the Wolfguard Terminator already sees play. This one gives you an option to play it at 5 or play it at 6. Which is better than the Wolfguard Terminator because more options are always better. In that case, I see him as perfectly serviceable. So I'd put him in B tier. Not for every deck, but I can see him making decks. Next, we have our First Company Terminator. So 6 cost. It comes with armor 1 already, blast 3, and oath deal 3 damage. Now, if you were to compare the stats, 6/6/6 for 6, this one would have 1 health, 1 attack less for melee. However, it has blast 3. So it's actually pretty good. Now, I don't think you would pay 8 for this, just for an additional 3 damage somewhere. However, at 6, it's perfectly good. I think it's one of the better six options for our Space Marines. The problem is at six you're competing with Angels of Death, so that's a pretty tight slot. But I think as a secondary option it can make it. Maybe in Classic, not in Skirmish too much. So I would actually put it at 8 tier. I think a lot of decks could use it. Now we have Cassius. Friendly Oath abilities apply an additional time. And it has a talent too. So 6447 is pretty small for a 6 drop. However, the HP is pretty high for a 6 drop. The ability is the interesting one. The only limiting factor for Oath is you have to pay for it. If I understand correctly, the Oath ability here applies an additional time, which means you're not paying for it, you're getting one time for free. Which kind of breaks the Oath ability. So for the Tactical Marine, instead of getting one boost, you're getting two. Instead of dealing 3 damage, you're dealing 6 damage. So in this case, if an Oath deck is to work, I think he has to be involved in it. And his ability is not bad. 0 for a +2 to a friendly troop is already great. Additional +2 for an Oath 3 is even better. But even at its base, just 0 +2, that's already great for me. So I think I can't rate him as a staple card for every deck, because I think some decks will really not make that much use of Oath. However, I think he'll be in a lot of decks that want to use Oath. There's just some archetypes that won't use him. Next, we have our Dreadnought. 647, deal 2 damage to an enemy unit and adjacent units. Would you be happy paying 8 for that? Basically, AOE blast 2 effect, and then 4/7. So at 6, I think it has perfectly good stats. 4/7 is okay for 6. It doesn't do anything right away, but at 6 it's fine. Uh, at 8 it might be very playable, but it's not the best. So I don't see it making its way into a lot of decks. However, it's not totally useless, so I just put it at C. Alright, we have our Blade Guard Ancient. 7, your other units have 2. Oath 1, give 1 armor to a friendly troop. I think 1 armor for 1 energy is perfectly fine. However, it's actually perfectly fine not to use it. So I don't think you would delay this a turn, just for that 1 armor. You would put this down at 7. So, and your other units have +2, that includes your Warlord. So this has an immediate effect. I could see this in a lot of decks. The only thing is, right now, a lot of Space Marines are vehicle-based because of the support system behind vehicles. And this is an infantry unit. So that might set him, that might work against him. But with our other cards in this deck, particularly the Chapter Champion, I can see an infantry Space Marine coming back. So I can see him definitely as part of that deck. So for that, I'm actually putting him in 8 tier. Alright, next page. We have our Terminator Champion. 7, armor 2. Gain invulnerable. Okay. If you play this at 11, and all you're getting is a 7/6/6 person that you're sure will survive until the next turn, you might be losing the game. It doesn't think of it like a Celestine. Celestine is fine at 7 because she has an ability that makes her survive until the next turn. If you were to play Celestine at 11 and have her cost 11 just for that, that's not good enough. However, he does shine with Vico, because if you can play him earlier and then play Vico and you trigger his ability, You can't get invulnerable on demand. However, it still costs 4, so that's quite a lot. And coming later, we'll see we have other options for invulnerable. That said, if you remove Oath, 7 for 6/6 and 7/2 for armor is actually pretty survivable. So even if you just slap this down at 7, your opponent will be forced to get rid of it, or let you have it. It is still a very good card. It's just not for Oath. Um, so having said that, we can put him at 8 here. Next we have Farron. Oath abilities of friendly units can be activated up to 3 times each turn. Oath 1 deal 1 damage, 8 cost. By the time this comes out, you won't really have that many turns left to play an Oath unit. I mean, even if you were a control deck, I think turn 11, 12 is already pushing it to how far the game will last. Maybe 13, 14. So you don't have that much time for this to take effect, and you don't have time to delay it either for deal 1 damage. And remember, if you wanna deal more damage, you have to pay for it as well. So if you wanna pay deal 3 damage for this, you have to put it down on 11. So it's not really good for its oath. It's good for its ability. Maybe it will see some play because of that. The stats are already good, 8 for 999. So it is survivable because of that. So due to that, I'd still put it at B tier. I don't see it in every deck, but it could make it in some. Next we have Brutalis. Oath 2, deal 3 damage to all enemies, cost 9. So if you want to use the Oath, this will have to come out in 11. Compare that to a Dreadnought. The Redemptor Dreadnought, is Codex, deal 1 to 2 damage, and it comes down at 8. And you can trigger that multiple times per turn. And you don't need to pay for the trigger. I do not think this will be used at all. Next we have we missed one. We have our Whirlwind. Alright, Sentry 4. Other units have Sentry 2. This is actually a good use of Sentry because you're forced to attack into it. Otherwise, other units will have Sentry 2 for free. So, like we said before, Sentry just buffs your weakest stat. So he will be attacked in melee, which means he'll have 7 melee, which is pretty respectable. However, at 8 cost, you're competing with Dreadnoughts and other cards that are more offensive. If you have a defensive control deck, I can see this being played. If you have an offensive deck, I think you'll go for other options. However, that being said, since there is a place for it, and it's pretty good for that place, I'm giving it an 8 here. Adaptive strategy. Give +1 to all friendly troops. Oath 1, give +1 health to all friendly troops. So for 2, you get +1 and +1. I think if you were to think that, would I pay 2 for this? I think yes, you would. But the question is, would you pay a card slot for this? Would it be enough to justify it? Does it do enough to justify itself in your deck? So I think that's where this kind of gets iffy. I see it being played in a go wide deck, but that's it. And even then, not all of those decks. So I'm just gonna put it in B tier. Next we have Fallback. Return a friendly troop to your hand, Oath 2, lower its cost by 2 and give it flank. So essentially, you use up all the HP of a unit, and then for 3, you put it back in your hand and give it flank. I think that could be fine. I think that some control decks might like to use this. It does require some testing, but I don't see it as pointless. So due to that, I think I'll give it a B rank for now. Next we have They Shall Know No Fear. wait 1 minute. Next we have Champions of Humanity. Give +2 health to all of your units. Oath 4, give them an additional +4 health, 3 health. So you either pay 2 for 2 or pay 6 for 5. If you're going wide, I can see this making it into your deck. In fact, if you have something like this, having adaptive strategy would actually be pretty pointless. So I can see it there. And actually, since that's here, I think we should lower adaptive strategy to 6 to C and put Champions of Humanity to B. I think it will be used over adaptive strategy, and adaptive strategy will have no place. Next, we have Duty's End. Backlash, trigger the codex of all friendly troops. Um, I think there's a place for this card, and I think it was a very good place. Essentially, you're gonna give this to somebody who's about to attack and die, so that you can trigger all of your codex abilities. Depending on how your board is, there could be a lot of value in that. So if you're in an aggro deck that's going wide and building up a board, I can actually see this getting a lot of value. Um, it does require testing, so I can't put it in S rank. But I can see it being played a lot in a specific kind of deck. So I'll put it in A. No fear. Invulnerable to a friendly troop. Or pay 10. Give 8 plus 8 plus 8. So essentially, if you're getting plus 8 plus 8, you're probably using it to kill a warlord. So invulnerable doesn't really matter. Or you give invulnerable, and you're probably using it to trade evenly, or to generate a favorable trade. Now, isn't invulnerable worth it for 2? I think very much so, yes. Usually you'd pay 2 for a shield, or pay 1 if you're Tau. Paying 2 for invulnerable with all its extra benefits would actually be worth it. So just for that alone, I think this card is worth it. And the reach effect it gives at Oath 8 means that it's even relevant late game. So given that, I would actually put this in the S tier. I think this will make every deck. Next we have Lead from the Front. Choose a non-legendary Ultramarines card and create 2 copies in your hand. Okay, what does this do? Essentially, it gives you 2 more resources. So, would you rather draw 2 cards from the deck that you constructed, or would you rather get 2 cards that you choose from a random set of cards? I think the answer is you would rather get 2 cards from the cards you chose, which means this doesn't have a place. In draft, you're essentially spending a turn to do this, which is why nobody really draws cards in draft anymore, because it's too fast. So it doesn't really have a place anywhere, and there's already a 2-cost Space Marine card that lets you draw 2, so it gets outshined by that. So due to that, we're putting it at D tier. I don't expect to ever see it. Next, we have No Mercy. Oh, not really. Next, we have Stormhawk Interception. Deal 2 to an adjacent unit, enemy unit, and adjacent units. Or, deal 4 to them, because you're repeating the effect for 6. So here's the thing. You have the option of Storm Raven at 4 to deal 2 to everything. Would you rather deal 2 to a specific unit and only the 2 units around it for 3, or have the flexibility to deal 4 to everything? I think Storm Raven beats this out. And if you want to do direct damage, you're much better off in the Death from Above at 4 instead of paying this for 6. So I think what happens here is that you have a mid-tier option that's trying to pay for its flexibility, and it's paying too much for it. So since you have better options than this, I don't see it being played at all. So I'm putting it in the D tier. Next we have No Mercy. Deal 4 damage to an enemy troop. Oath, destroy all enemy troops. Okay. Space Marines has a card called Inspired Retribution, right? For 5, I can kill a troop. So, would I spend 4 to deal 4 damage, or would I spend 5 just to kill one? I think I would spend 5 to kill one, because the kill one would have no limits. Now, this does have another effect. Deal 4 damage to an enemy troop, or pay 8 to deal 8 damage to all troops, or to destroy all damaged troops. The thing with that is that you'd have to damage the troops first, which means you'd have to send in things to those troops to damage them, or you're not getting the entire board, and it costs 8. So, I can't. Inspired Retribution is already there, so I don't see a real use for this. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. Next, you have No Respite. Gain Sentry 1 to all friendly units. Oath 3, create No Respite in your hand. So you're paying 5 for a +1 to your weakest stat to all of your units. That means your Sentry will be triggered because it's everywhere. But is it really worth it for just +1? All you're doing is dealing 1 extra damage for Sentry. That's it. And will you be willing to pay 8 to get it back? To do it again? No. I mean, you have to take into account that you're not getting this for free. You have to pay. You have to pay either 5 or 8 for this. That's 5 or 8 cost or energy that your opponent could be playing other stuff. So I don't really think it will see. I mean, I think it will be tested. Don't get me wrong, but I think it will ultimately fail. So I'm putting it in D rank. In Dominus Crusade, deploy an ultimate troop that costs 6 or more. Oath 6, deal 6 damage to all enemy troops. Okay. At 6, I can see this as an autoplay. Just play 6, put down the troop, and then if you use it at 6 energy, it will trigger Codex of whatever you put down. That's already good enough. The low roll is you'll get a 6, which is what you were getting anyway. The high roll is you'll get a 10. Or maybe 8 or 9. There are more 7, 8, 9, and 10 out there than there are 6s. So there's a higher probability that you'll get a high roll. However, would I pay this at 12? No. The reason is, at 12, you're not sure what you're getting. So you're not sure whether it's a Storm Talon that would deal 3 damage to everything, or whether it's a Captain Sicarius that will deal 10 damage to everything. So the randomness makes me avoid it at 12, but makes it perfectly play it at 6. I mean, I guess there's a certain you have to take into account the level of risk that you're willing to put into a card, and the level of payout you'll get from that risk. Now, at 6, I can guarantee I'm always going to come out ahead of this card, or at worst, I'll break even. At 12, there's no guarantee, because at 12, I expect this to clear the enemy board. There's a possibility it won't do that, which means that you're just going to die next turn, because you spent your entire turn playing the Crusade. However, since it's perfectly playable at 6, I actually see it making every deck. So I put it at S tier. Alright, so this is our tier rankings for Avenging Sons. I don't actually think anything here is overpowered. I don't see any Rolf or any Fenris Wolf Captain that does 10 damage to a target. Nothing like that. In fact, I don't even see anything as good as Birth of a Saga. Everything is just either good, because Space Marines are allowed to have good cards, so it's okay to be good. Or it's unplayable, or average, but nothing truly game breaking. So I think it's a good expansion. Lots of new options, nothing truly game breaking, and I hope we see more expansions like this. Nothing that truly changes the game, but something that we can see more varieties of decks in. Because the thing you don't want to see is to have a new faction come out or a new expansion come out, and then it take over everything, like what Space Wolves did. What you want to see it be able to just increase the variety of decks and integrate into the game smoothly. So I'm happy with this expansion. I hope you guys are happy with this review too. Again, like and subscribe if you like this content, and I hope you guys have good luck.